So what I'd love you to do is introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us how you found your vocation with supplements and then later on zeolites. And then tell us a little bit about the magical qualities of zeolite.
Well, I'll be happy to, and I'll save everybody sort of all the nitty gritty of the life stories. But I can come back if there's details that you'd like me to fit in. So I'm in the U.S. I'm actually located in North Carolina in the United States on the East Coast. And I have been involved, and I say this with a great deal of pride, I've been involved with the supplement industry for 30 some years. And when I say that, I know that it probably means different things to different people. I focus on the health education, and the role that supplements can play in sort of bridging that gap between where people are with their daily habits and their knowledge and where they want to get to, sort of recognizing that the in-between part is life, particularly this sort of go-go modern life that we all have, although it certainly has been affected by the pandemic in terms of kind of the go-go part of it. The bottom line is, for most people, there's good, solid, fundamental knowledge about what they should do, what they shouldn't do in terms of their health, habits they should cultivate, habits that they should try to shed. You know, we have this fundamental knowledge, but it isn't just knowing, it's being able to make it work and make it work in a way that works around family, obligations to your career, other things that people are involved with. And, you know, not everybody is going to have such an enthusiasm that this can be sort of this full-time hobby of trying to figure out what they're going to eat to be the healthiest and all those types of issues. And so for us, we see our role here at Touchstone, and I'll back up and give everybody sort of the how I got to Touchstone. But we see our role as trying to provide people with education that they can, you know, digest without having to be a biochemist, and also products that can fit as seamlessly as possible into their lives, sort of recognizing that in general, what's missing from most people's diets, what are those things that would make a difference, trying to reduce the risk of things like degenerative diseases such as cardiovascular disease, cancer, diabetes, but also being conscious of the fact that people want to feel good now. You know, a lot of people that are looking at supplements, educating themselves about supplements, it's because maybe they don't sleep as well as they once did. Maybe they're struggling with their metabolism, you know, finding a healthy weight. Could be that inflammation, arthritis, things like that have really crept into their lives in ways they never wanted or dreamt of when they were younger. And they're looking for answers and solutions. And there are answers and solutions out there, and they're not as hypey, not as expensive, and not as gimmicky as television and magazines and infomercials would have you think, right? Solutions are more within people's grasp, I believe, than they ever really realize. For me, having, you know, how I got here, unlike most people, in that it really wasn't something that was on my mind when I was in school. I sort of admire people that made health, nutrition, these kinds of things the subject they were focused on in school. That wasn't true for me, but I had this wake-up call in my mid-20s. My lovely mother, Judy, who's in her 70s now and very healthy, that wasn't always the case. In the late 1980s, she had what her doctor told us was a mysterious illness that they couldn't really figure out what was happening to her. She'd gone to her primary care doctor and some experts sort of locally, and then finally we're carrying her to universities with significant medical centers. And you know, kind of a couple years into this mysterious illness, and you can't see me, but I'm using air quotes, and they're not sure why she's sort of wasting away in terms of weight. Her immune system's really compromised. She's catching everything that comes near her. She's struggling to sort of keep her focus and rest. And I mean, I'm looking at my mom, who's this lovely person who's only just barely 18 years older than me, right? She's young and she's vibrant, and she's kind of disappearing on us. And you know, ultimately, to kind of shorten the story, we had an introduction to someone where they said, "Hey, there's this doctor I want to point you towards, but I want you to know up front, he has a reputation as a quack." And it's so funny, how desperate you can be in life, we said, can you give us the phone number? We'll figure that part out. And it turns out he wasn't a quack. He just happened to be someone that utilized chelation therapy because he associated a lot of these kinds of conditions like my mom was displaying symptoms for, as oftentimes there was something going wrong from a toxicity standpoint. Well, it turns out after even just 5 days of very significant chelation therapy, her situation improved. Now, in hindsight, it may have been too aggressive in terms of how things started. I mean, it's certainly the story finished well, but she really got better fast. And then we were ultimately able to realize what was happening was she had breast implants when she was younger. One of them was leaking, and her body was then also just having a general autoimmune reaction to the implants being in her body. So once we got her well enough, we got the implants removed, and her story turned out great, right? She returned to good health. But it was this real wake-up call for me because after I got out of the university where I had been, reasonably athletic on an amateur basis, I had let myself go. I was already overweight in ways I shouldn't have been. My cholesterol is too high. I've got, sort of these challenges that were about to throw me into this statistic of where most of the population is, but where, say, by the time they're in their late 30s, they're using high blood pressure medications. Maybe they're dealing with type 2 diabetes. And so I had this wake-up call with my mom about the role, the food I was putting in my body, the lifestyle I was living, what it meant for me, not just daily, but long-term. And it pointed me in the direction of health and nutrition. And I'm a bit of a slow learner, so it didn't happen for me overnight. But I've spent the past 30 years in the nutrition field. I started Touchstone Essentials back in 2012 after being in what I refer to as the conventional side of nutrition. For those that don't know the difference, about 99% of supplements that are produced are made from fractionated ingredients, from corn oil to petroleum byproducts that are the root ingredients that you find in general B vitamins. For the most part, supplements are not quite what people think. Most of them are assembled in a very similar fashion to what you find with, say, fast food, right? They're not really whole and complete foods. And so the design and idea people are targeting when they take supplements is really not quite what they're getting. And so we started Touchstone to focus on whole food ingredients to make up these wonderful superfood supplements that we provide. And really for us, we have this pretty singular focus that one of the dirty little secrets of the modern world is that it's toxic. And there's 100,000+ toxins, chemicals, I guess is what I properly should call them, that are used in consumer goods all over the world every day that haven't really been studied in terms of both their temporary and long-term impact on the human body and what that can do. So we believe that toxins are fundamentally something we've all got to think about and support our body's own native and natural ways to get rid of them, whether that's considering the amount of fresh fruits, vegetables people get in their diet so they've got fiber to move things through the bowel, green leafy vegetables, which help the kidney, liver to really aid in detoxification, but also from a supplement standpoint. And so we have a big belief that you need to work on getting the bad stuff out, at the same time putting the good stuff in. And of course, we really like the idea of using CBD oil, the benefits of hemp to bring that balance that people need. So Caroline, I could probably talk too much here, and so I'll stop and target in on specific questions, but maybe that'll give the audience a little of my background.
If we can just address the immune system for 5 minutes. So specifically, how does Pure Body, for example, assist the immune system to work better?
Well, and maybe the one thing I should do is take a pause here and go back and just address exactly what Pure Body is for those that, because I don't know that I did that from your first, and then we can talk about it from an immune standpoint. So for those that don't know, and I haven't had a chance to speak to before, we have two detoxification products at Touchstone Essentials. One is called Pure Body Regular. This is a zeolite product that, because of its size, which is a mean average size of 0.4 microns, principally will stay in a person's gut, and its focus and its strategy and design is to help support the gut from a cleansing and a health standpoint. It has properties that can help to alkalize the gut, most people sort of recognize with the heavy cooked food diet that represents, mostly what people consume from a modern diet standpoint, that trying to move off the acidity spectrum to an alkaline spectrum can help them from a gut health standpoint. It helps to bind and remove toxins that are found in the gut, particularly those that you would find directly in the food or water supply, right, that are going to hang out in the gut that can be disruptive to the good flora, the good bacteria that makes up a healthy gut and helps your body manage things like leaky gut. And so unlike a cleanse, which whether we're talking about coffee enemas or anything sort of in that category, or herbal capsules and tablets, which are focused on sort of the cleanse process, freeing up toxins in the space, this is a detox, very specifically looking to bind with heavy metals, volatile organics, PFASs, other forever chemicals. And so what you can help to free up that body burden that people have in their gut, improve gut health, then the body's immune system, even the central nervous system, your ability to manage diet control are all improved. I mean, there's a very much a relationship between your gut and your brain. It's a gut-brain connection. Some people refer to the gut as a second brain that can help you with the management of issues you think of as central nervous system, mood, even metabolism, hormones. I mean, there's a whole list of things. And so we have a zeolite product called Pure Body that's focused on the gut. We also have another zeolite product that is a cellular product, and this is really on scale the most significant product we have from a detox standpoint. It is also what I would describe for our company as really the tip of our arrow, right, where the idea of health improvement, assisting the body comes into play by helping to detox at a cellular level. I'll come back to the details on the zeolite, but this is a zeolite that's in a nano range, so it's exponentially smaller than the product at 0.4 microns built for the gut. And in this case, the way we've designed it, we have a proprietary process where we trap this nano-sized particle inside a water cluster. And so literally it can go anywhere in your body that water will go. And so it can get into the cells through the aquaprinas, which are really the fluid channels that allow things to commonly flow in and out of your cells, keeping in mind sort of depending upon the circumstances and the way you make these calculations, your body's made up between 70 and 100 million trillion, cells. And so this is what makes us all up. This and that symbiotic relationship with the microbiome in your body, and toxicity, being toxic, heavy metals gets in the way of these functions. And so zeolites to me are fascinating. Now I realize I'm sort of on the nerd end of the spectrum, but what makes them so fascinating to me is they are a natural mineral. We exclusively work with naturally mined clinoptilolite. I recognize zeolites, some listening will probably know them from industrial water or air filtration. Those are almost always going to be synthetics. There's kind of these two categories, zeolites that are what I call lab made or factory made. Most of that's occurring in places where labor costs are extremely low. Oftentimes people are not thinking too much about environmental impact of production. Those are for industrial purposes. If you look at what we know from a safety standpoint and an understanding from a nutritional standpoint about zeolites in humans, zeolites actually enjoy from the U.S. government what's called GRAS status with the FDA. That means it's generally recognized as safe. That's common ingredients that we know people can consume unless there's some odd circumstances and it's safe to do so. For example, orange juice has GRAS status, technically speaking, broccoli GRAS status. So zeolites have GRAS status, and they enjoy the equivalency from the UK and the European Union and really throughout Asia. I mean, I don't really know of any sort of federal agencies around the world that don't recognize that clinoptilolite specifically, not the man-made product, has this safety understanding called GRAS. And so you find it in animal feed and human supplements. The challenge with zeolites are in their natural form, they can help the body bind and remove toxins, but the ratio of success is very poor. They've got to be sized to get specific and function at their best. And so, for example, the reason we make the Pure Body Regular at 0.4 microns is because if we made it any smaller, the majority of the particles would evacuate out of the gut through the soft tissue and into the bloodstream. That's great. It would do some beneficial things there, but we really want that product to stay in the gut as much as possible. So that 0.4 microns is really that size you're looking for biochemistry-wise to cause that to occur. And then, of course, the nanoparticle, it's got to be nano-sized to make it into the cells. And so sizing it is important. If you go online and you can buy it by bags, right? You can buy very large quantities. They're not sized properly. And from a sourcing standpoint, it's unlikely they would come from a mine like we use. We use a very pristine mine that product, even out of the ground, enjoys Prop 65 compliance out of California, which is a very stringent set of regulations regarding the cleanliness of supplements or things that people consume. But then the most important part is we have a process where we prep the cage. So these natural minerals, they've been around for thousands of years. We can go back and look at clay eating societies in China. Some of you may not know this sort of background, but years ago when people got dysentery, and this is still true in unfortunately, many sort of third world situations in the world today, when people got dysentery, it was almost a death sentence because they basically became dehydrated and experienced organ failure because of the unhealthiness of the gut, the bacteria, viruses, and other things in their gut. They couldn't hold food. When this happened back in the day, obviously think about the lack of understanding of germs. People were sort of outcast out of their villages or communities, and so they lived by rivers, right? Trying to sort of survive and knowing that they needed water, but very often they weren't successful, right? So it was a terrible situation. Somewhere along the way, somebody ate some dirt. Maybe it was just out of desperation for food, and they found that the dirt, and in this case, it was clay that had zeolites in it. Nobody really understood what was going on there, acted to disrupt the function of the bacteria and the viruses in a way that allowed people to actually survive and, eventually thrive. And so this history sort of plays out. The Romans used clay with zeolites in it to operate their plumbing systems in cities. That's why one of the very first sort of metropolitan environments ever was Roman societies, where heretofore disease, when people lived too close together, would not allow cities to flourish and develop. Of course, we know zeolites were used in Chernobyl, along with concrete to sort of seal up the dynamics associated with the radiation poisoning, and also Fukushima. So we have this history, we have this understanding of its safety and the way it functions in the body. In our case, we mill it, and then through a proprietary process, we prep the cage so that it is more likely to bind and absorb with toxins. There's really three ways that zeolites work in the body. One, they have a cage with a negative charge. And so I know we can't see each other, but anybody out there that kind of can envision, say, the north end of a south end of a magnet, right? You remember sort of playing with magnets as a child. And when the north end and the south end get near one another, they sort of snap together, right? It's got a little bit of a bind. You can pull it apart, but it's got a little bit of a bind. Zeolites are attracted to positively charged particles like the volatile organics I've been speaking of, or heavy metals like cadmium, lead, mercury, aluminum. So they have a positive charge, the zeolite has a negative charge, and they bind. And in this case, that bound moment, or that binding, is significant enough that there's no receptor sites in the body for zeolites, and so it will evacuate your body. If you have normal renal function, probably a 4 to 6 hour period of time, it's going to bind with toxins and help them leave your body. It works by proximity. So it's about using it and the circulation that's achieved when it's in the body. You'd sort of like to have this floating level moving around your body so when it encounters toxins, it can bind with it. And it's brilliant because it is also safe from a contraindication standpoint. So we don't really have contraindications. It can be safely and effectively used for really almost any circumstance and age. Obviously, if people have, certain very specific medical conditions, they should check with their doctor. And so it's this natural, safe product. In our case, we only mill it and prep it with a little excess magnesium so that it's more likely to bind with toxins. And by doing so, we've created a product that's incredibly efficient, can be used day in and day out. Now, why is that important? For anybody listening, unfortunately for us today, detox in this kind of situation, we talk cultural and societal toxicity, just because you detox at one moment doesn't mean that that's really your state of health and being moving forward, because you're still breathing really the same air, you're drinking the same water, you're eating the same fruits and vegetables. And so thinking about it from a strategy standpoint, just like you're putting good nutrition in your body, day in and out, taking toxins out of your body is really what the zeolite represents in terms of a tool for people to use. And so we focus very heavily on that because we know that really unlocks the door to energy and rest and sleep and peace of mind and those things that we want to think of when we're improving our nutritional intake. I'll just say this, for those that are out there and you're just uncertain, everything we sell comes with an unconditional money-back guarantee. You can find thousands of positive 5-star reviews on people that work with us and use our products on our website. Caroline has access to coupons that she can help people use to buy an introductory product order at a savings. And so there's very little to lose. I can't think of anything, and so much to gain. And I just encourage people to take a chance on themselves. Give your body something to work with, and it will respond, right? The body's brilliant, and you're kind to it, it'll be kind to you. Look forward to seeing some folks get more healthy and enjoy better health as a result. No matter what you do in terms of our products, go out there and pay attention to your health. You're worth it, right? And it may not always seem like it, but what these really are life and death discussions, right? The quality of life and other things. And so, give your body a chance. That's the general message I want to send. So thank you.